Good morning, Twitch. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing today? My name is Terry White. I'm the worldwide design and photography evangelist for Adobe, and it's my pleasure to take you through an exploration or an experience of Adobe Lightroom Mobile. I talk about Lightroom quite a bit on my show here on Twitch, but today it's dedicated to just Lightroom Mobile. We'll, of course, talk a little bit about the desktop towards the end. But this one is for everyone, whether you're a professional photographer or you're just a person that takes pictures with a smartphone or point and shoot. It doesn't matter what your level of expertise is. If you have a mobile device, iOS or Android, then this one is for you. Now, for those of you who are watching this as a video on demand, this is a show that took place live. It takes place live on Tuesdays and Fridays. So this is the Friday, March 18th show, which happens at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, or happened at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And because it is live, that means I'll be interacting with my live audience via the chat. Now, if you're watching the replay or video on demand on Twitch, Twitch has started to implement the chat as part of the video on demand experience. So for those of you who go to twitch.tv/Adobe/profile, you'll be able to see all the videos on demand, and you'll be able to see the chat that took place as well. If you're watching it somewhere else, maybe I posted it to my YouTube channel or anywhere else, then you won't see the chat. So you'll see me do things like this, where I look over and I greet people and I say hello. Like Adobe Alistair is in the house, and Skimmer, and Axmika, and iPhantom85, and so forth and so on. I can't read everyone's profile name, but if I say hello, or if I address a question, if you see me looking over here a lot, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm addressing the questions in the chat. Now, before we get things off, I will explain what we're going to be doing today, but before we even do that, let me go ahead, since this is a live stream, once I click the start button, I actually go to my browser and just check a couple settings to make sure everything's streaming properly. So let me do that real quick. And let me just go ahead. I also host it on my Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/TerryLWhite. So I just hosted it on my channel as well. I also run a quick analysis. We have an analysis app just to make sure the stream is nice and healthy and looks good everywhere. And everything's looking good. And hopefully Twitch will behave, because we're going to be doing this for the next couple of hours. All right. Let me make sure. Hey, Barbie, how's it going? Renee's in the house. Victoria, thanks for being a mod today, as usual. And just make sure I got everyone. David's in the house as well. Lots of people coming in, so this is going to be a fun session. Not that they aren't fun if lots of people aren't in, but this will even be more fun because lots of people are in. All right, so let me explain a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. And this is one of my first streams on Twitch, where I'm going to specifically ask for audience participation. I'm going to ask you guys to do something that I normally don't ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to participate and show me your work, but let's get to the task at hand. So I'll give you a quick outline. We're going to, if you haven't already, you're going to install Lightroom Mobile on an iOS or Android device. They're free. It's free to download, free to install. The only requirement, even though it's free, is that you have to create an Adobe ID if you don't already have one, because you'll log into the app with your Adobe ID. That's the only requirement. After that, you can use the app. You can do everything I'm going to show you, with the exception of one thing at the very end. You can do everything I'm going to show you. You can edit your photos, share your photos, manage your photos. You can do all of that for free in the app. It's not a trial. That's just the way the app works. I'm going to ask you, now that once you go download the app, I'm going to ask you to find a picture that you like. Or maybe you like, but you don't love. Maybe it's a picture that you think could be better. Or maybe it's one you're going to take right now in the app, and we'll talk about ways to do that. Whatever it is, whether it's an existing picture that you kind of like but don't love, or in a picture that you're going to take right now but you want to make it better, we're going to do that. And I'm going to have you tweet your before and your after picture. and maybe I don't know, we might even do a drawing and give away a prize. So I'll have you tweet it to a specific hashtag, using a specific hashtag. And once you do that tweet, and you can do that tweet at any time. You don't have to do it right now, but you can do it any time throughout this next 2 hours. And towards probably the 1 hour mark, I'll start looking for those photos because I will have taken you through all the things you can do. And we'll start looking for some befores and afters. And we'll take a look at what we might help you with along the way. So that's the way this is going to happen today. Now, so we're going to start with downloading the app, and I think probably Victoria's probably already posted the URL to do that. I'm going to have it showing the entire time. You're going to grab a picture that is either on your phone already or one that you're about to take right now, and either way, we're going to I'm going to show you some ways to edit that photo. You're going to tweet the before and after for maybe a shot at a prize, maybe not. And I'm going to show you all the various ways to use Lightroom Mobile because I'm, again, dedicating the next 2 hours, or a little bit less than 2 hours now, to Lightroom Mobile and the way it works. And again, if you're just joining us, my name is Terry White. I'm the Worldwide Design and Photography Evangelist for Adobe. I might say that 1 or 2 more times throughout, but it's down here now. And we'll be talking about Lightroom Mobile, which is a free mobile app for iOS devices, iPad, iPhone, and Android. So you can download it on either platform, and you can use the editing features for free. It's not a trial. It's something you can keep on your phone and keep using as much as you want. If you are a Creative Cloud member, then you get to take advantage of one more thing that we'll talk about towards the end. But today we're going to spend most of the time talking about what everyone can do, whether you're a paid member or free member. All right, so Rufus is in the house. He joined us. Let's see who else is here. Just proud to be is in the house. Thanks for doing all the mod work earlier. And all right, looks like I got everyone addressed that I could see that I remembered. Adobe Lee Anna's in the house as well. Hey, from Ottawa. It's cold up there. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in and show you what we're going to do. And Paul Whitehead's in the house as well. All right, let me switch gears here so you can see my computer screen. All right, and now you should be able to see the computer screen. And like I said, you can start by downloading Lightroom Mobile if you don't already have it and install it on your device. So one of the quickest ways to get to all the places where you can download it, for example, for iPhone, for iPad or iPad Pro, or for Android, is to go to this URL. And this is more for, because I know Victoria put it in the chat, this is more for people watching the video on demand. So if you go to adobe.com/products/lightroom-mobile.html, that will take you to this page that has all the links where you can download the app. For iPhone, it is a separate one. It's not a universal binary. For iPhone and iPad, so if you have both, you can download both. And if you have a Google device, or an Android device, you can download it for Android as well. And this kind of walks you through and talks a little bit more about what you can do. And I'm going to leave this page up, maybe shrink it over just a little bit, but I'm going to leave this page up so people that are coming in late or after we get started into the editing, you'll always be able to see that link and be able to jump in and download your app. So while you're downloading, while you're installing, while you're finding that photo that you want to use, I'm gonna go ahead now. I'm gonna fire up my device, and I'm going to show you how you're going to get started. So first thing, download the app. Second thing, sign in with an Adobe ID or create one if you haven't created one already. And then third thing, go find a photo or take a photo that you wished or would like to edit in Lightroom to make better. You wished it was better, or you want to take one now and see what you can do in Lightroom. Maybe you have a photo that's good already and you just want to play around with it. That's fine too. All right, let me check to make sure. Why it says trial. It shouldn't say trial. Lightroom CC might say trial, but Lightroom Mobile on your phone, is probably, shouldn't say trial. It should say that it shouldn't say trial at all. So yeah, there is a trial for Lightroom CC, and maybe that's what it's talking about. But the app itself does not require a trial. It's not a 30-day thing. All right. So desktop, yes, trial. On your phone or mobile device, not a trial. All right. Be sure I got all the comments in here, and let me go ahead and fire up my device. All right, so I'm going to be doing the bulk of this on my iPhone 6s Plus. I have some of it I'm going to do on the iPad a little bit later on in the stream, probably past the first hour mark, because I want to get all the, like I said, all the things you can do at no cost out of the way first, and then we'll talk a little bit for those of you who are Creative Cloud members or are thinking about being Creative Cloud members, the things you can do if you are a member. So, but like I said, first hour we're going to concentrate on just the things you can do. I'm just checking the comment here, a lengthy one. Okay. Adobe L. Gardner, that's a good good thing that the Lightroom team probably needs to take a look at on the description on the Google Play Store. So thanks for that. So it should say Lightroom for mobile at the end if you're using Lightroom or using it on a mobile device. So great. Again, start with this URL or start with the one in the chat that Victoria has posted, and that'll take you here where you have the 3 buttons to download it for your platform. And from there, you should be good to go, because that's going to take you right to it. Okay. All right. Let me fire up my device over here that I've got in my hand so you guys can see it. Let's swing it over here and make sure it's good to go. And we can see it there. Android, it redirects me to the non-mobile. If it is, if for some reason one of these links is redirecting you somewhere where you don't think you should be, then just manually go to the Google Play Store on your own, and even on your device, and download it from there. That way you can't be redirected because you're in the Play Store. Working fine on my Android. So yeah, it might be a specific thing for whatever it is you're tapping or clicking on that's taking you somewhere else. Okay, let me fire this up. There we go. And so I keep my Adobe apps in my Adobe folder. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my Adobe folder, and you'll see you'll see several Adobe apps that I use from time to time, or always, depends on the app. And today we're going to be doing 99% Lightroom Mobile. I may get into some other things at the end, but this is mostly Lightroom Mobile. And all of these apps are free. So even if you see something that kind of looks intriguing in my folder, you might want to go search for it. Not all of them are on Android yet, but if they are, of course, you'll find them. And of course, there are all the ones that you see are on iOS, because I'm on iOS. All right, so let's fire up Lightroom. And I'm going to walk you through what you want to do, because this part is going to most likely be empty if you've never used Lightroom Mobile. What you're seeing in my my Lightroom Mobile is 77 collections representing 5,584 photos. So I use it all the time, as you might imagine. So what I want to do is I want you, once you're in Lightroom Mobile, we're going to do it together. We're going to tap the plus sign in the upper right hand corner. And once I tap that plus sign, it should allow you now to create a collection. Now, you can call that collection whatever you want. Your favorite pet, your pet's name, your significant other's name, travel, my favorite vacation, whatever it is you want to name this collection of photos. Now, if you're asking, what's a collection? Think of a collection as a photo album, or an album or collection of your photos. So you might make collections for anything. Family reunion, my last vacation, last weekend's birthday party, whatever it is, you can make a collection for it. Now, collections can obviously represent or show photos, but they don't. The photos aren't stored in a collection, if that makes sense. So, for example, if you think about the way you manage your music, I'm assuming most of you manage music at some point or another. You have a library of songs by different artists, different albums. You've acquired them different ways. Maybe you purchased them as a digital download. Maybe you ripped them from a CD that you own. Or maybe it was a free download. However you got that song, those songs are in your entire library. But you don't listen to 1,000 or 10,000 songs every day all the time. You probably organize those songs into playlists. And as you know, one song, your favorite song, could be in 5 different playlists. It could be in 10 different playlists. Think of those playlists as collections for your photos. So playlist would be the same kind of thing when it comes to your photos. Now, by default, since Lightroom doesn't know what you want to call this collection, it just names it today's date and time until you change it. You know, yeah. And by the way, the date and time means nothing to me. Unless it was a specific anniversary date or birth date, then that might kind of jog my memory. But if I look back at this 3 weeks from now and I say, what's the collection for March 18, 16 at 10:13 a.m., you know, I'm not going to remember what that is. So you can, of course, tap the little X and you can wipe that name out and put in whatever name you want. Now, I'm going to put in a name just for the purpose of this stream. But again, you name yours whatever you want. So I'm going to call mine Lightroom before, and I already have one called before and after that I'm going to be grabbing other photos from, but I'm going to call this one before and after, and I'll just call this one Twitch. That way I know this is the new one I did online with you guys. But I already have one called Lightroom before and after, so I don't want to use the exact same name. It probably won't let me anyway. All right, so I got my collection created. I'm going to click OK. And when I click OK, now you're probably thinking, well, what happened? Where is it? It created it, and it's now in alphabetical order in my list, which is long, so I'd have to scroll down to it. If you don't have a long list, you're probably looking at it right now, and it's an empty collection. So let me scroll down to it. Lightroom, there it is, before and after Twitch. So see I have 2. I have Lightroom before and after, and Lightroom before and after Twitch. So when I tap on the Lightroom before and after Twitch, the one that I just created, this is now where we're going to put that photo or those photos that we talked about earlier. The ones you were going to go look for, the ones you were going to take right now, the ones that you want to kind of make look better. We're going to add them to this collection. And we can add them a couple of ways. We can add the ones that are already on your device. So at the very bottom where it says add photos, you can do that. Or if you want to take a picture right now, you can use the Adobe camera. There's a camera built into the app, and I'm going to go through that app or that camera and its features in just a moment. Let me pause, look over at my chat to make sure I see it scrolling out of the corner of my eye. So let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. Let's see here. Cool, you found a scorpion photo. Okay, I can't wait to see that. Lightroom Mobile has made your Lightroom your life much easier. It makes my life much easier every day. You took a horrible picture just to see what you can see if you could fix it. Okay. All right. If I take a photo with Lightroom, it appears in a regular photo folder on iPhone 2. Is this a reference when I delete? Okay, that's a very good question. So, Skimmer66 is asking, and this is one of the confusing aspects of taking a photo with the camera, which we're going to use in a second. When you take a photo with the built-in camera, it's actually putting it in both places. It's putting it in Lightroom, and it's also putting it on your camera roll for your device. And we kind of do that. Actually, I wish we could turn that off. Personally, I wish there was an option to not do that. But we do it more for safety. In other words, Sometimes people do things and they don't think first. For example, they delete the Lightroom app. Well, what does that do? Does it delete all my photos? It depends. If my photos were only in the Lightroom app and I wasn't syncing to my desktop, yeah, it might delete all my photos. So that's why we always put them on the camera roll as a backup for people that might do something without realizing what they're about to do first. So now the question that you're really asking, and this is one that I asked too, if I delete the one in the phone's camera roll, what does it do to the one in Lightroom? Or can I delete the one in the camera roll? And the answer is yes, with a caveat. If you delete the one on the camera roll, yes, it will still be in Lightroom, but you'd have to be careful because, like I said, now that's the only place you have it. If you are syncing to the desktop, which is a feature for Lightroom CC members or Lightroom Creative Cloud members, then no problem because you've got it in the phone and it already synced to the desktop as well. So you've got it in both places. So my warning here is if you're just using Lightroom for free, which is fine, we encourage that, just note that if you delete it off the camera roll and then someday you decide to delete this app off your phone, you've deleted that picture, it's gone for good. So just make sure that you're confident that that's what you really want to do. And if that's the answer, by all means, delete away. If you kind of think, well, I kind of want to maybe keep both pictures just in case as a backup, fine. Yes, it is using more space, but that's up to you. So just know that, be aware that deleting it is deleting it. So it's gone. And deleting the app, if you don't have it synced anywhere else, they're gone. So just keep all that in mind. Okay. And it looks like I addressed all the questions. Okay, so I'm going to show you two ways. I'm going to show you how to add a photo that's already on your device, meaning one you took earlier, one that's on the camera roll, so forth and so on. And I'm going to show you how to take a new one right now. So we're going to do both. I'm going to do the first one, which is the first one on the list at the bottom, add photos. And is there a way of disabling syncing? Yeah, you can disable syncing by turning it off on the desktop. Just go into the Lightroom menu at the top, right by your identity plate, and you can pause or turn off syncing, and it will not sync to the desktop anymore. Okay, but let's go ahead and add photos. Now notice when I say add photos, it's going to give me a choice. Add, because I'm adding them to this collection, so that's why it's giving me that choice. It's giving me the choice of adding from my camera roll. That means photos that were on here even before I downloaded and installed the apps. Those are all the photos that are on my camera roll, how many ever I have. Or add photos that are already in Lightroom, meaning we're in a collection. So remember how I said the same song could be on multiple playlists? Well, that song is already in the library and you've already put it on my Good Morning playlist. Well, if you want to listen to it at night and you put it on your Good Evening playlist, you'd be adding it from the library. So adding from Lightroom Photos means add a photo that's already in Lightroom, just put it in this collection. Adding from the camera roll means it may or may not be in Lightroom already, but add it to this collection. All right, just want to make sure I got all the questions here. I saw a couple more pop up. Yep, okay, so a couple people already reiterated what I said about pausing or stopping the syncing. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and say camera roll at this point. We're going to pretend like you're just starting out. Many of you are. You've never added a photo to Lightroom before, so we're going to go ahead and add one from the camera roll or add multiple ones from the camera roll. Now, I have photos in here that I took, and they're in chronological order here. So the ones at the very top are the ones that I just recently took. And some of them are actually screenshots because sometimes we're taking screenshots with our phone. Lightroom Mobile can import those PNG files as well. But I'm going to scroll up to these railroad tracks. And these are photos, and I got to give you the story behind this. I'm a fan of The Walking Dead, the TV show The Walking Dead. I'm not going to show you any zombies today, but I'm a fan of The Walking Dead. And I now live in Georgia. And if you know anything about The Walking Dead, you know most of it is shot or filmed in Georgia. It's filmed in the Atlanta area. Well, literally about 30 minutes from where I am right now, where I live, is one of the sites that they film. And as a tourist, you can go and you can't get on the set, but you can actually go and see stuff that you see in the TV show because it's filmed in a real town. It's filmed in a town called Sonoya. So last weekend, couldn't wait any longer, hopped in the car, drove to Sonoya, and only camera I took with me was my phone, and I was just snapping pictures of the landmarks and the various things. So I now these are already in Lightroom because I'm a Lightroom user. I've already put them in, but I'm pretending they're not, and I could say, oh yeah, I want that one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and I shot a panorama with my phone, so I can say, yep, give me that panorama, give me that panorama. I took some pictures of the Walking Dead store because, of course, there's a store where they sell stuff. There's also a Walking Dead cafe with Carol's cookies. Don't open, dead inside. Storage room. There's a picture of Daryl by one of his first motorcycles in the show. There's a picture from the prison. If you don't watch the show, there was a whole season where they were kind of camped out in the prison. There's the Sonoya sign. There's another picture of Alexandria, the wall, for people that watch the show. And here's a sign to the tourist, kind of just saying respect the property, look around, but don't, keep in mind it's private property. All right, I'm not going to import the zombie pictures, but let's go ahead and import those in. I just hit add, and now those 19 photos have been added successfully. Now, what does that mean? That means that A, those 19 photos have been added to this collection. B, those 19 photos have been added to the Lightroom app so that I can put them in other collections. C, if I am syncing to the desktop, which is a paid feature, they're now syncing to the desktop as well. So we're not going to worry about C yet, but A and B are the ones you want to think about right now. All right, let me look at comments. Can you easily rename, let me go back up. Yes, I'm going to answer your, can you rename a question or a collection? The answer is yes, but let me go back up here. All right, Erica Drayton is asking a question. It's more, it depends on where you are with Lightroom. She's asking, I'm assuming the photos that are stored and organized in Lightroom aren't taking up space like the photos in my phone, meaning it's not taking double space. And by that question, I'm assuming you mean you're a Lightroom CC customer and therefore you have Lightroom on your desktop. And if that's true, you are correct. They're not taking up double space. Like I said, I have over 5,000 images in my Lightroom mobile app, synced to Lightroom Mobile. Those 5,000 images, although I can see them on my phone, aren't taking up space all at the same time on my phone. When do they take up space? When you do this. When you tap on a photo, you might even see a little circle while it renders or downloads that photo or caches that photo. That's when it starts taking up space on your phone. But as you're looking at them in thumbnails, I could have 50,000 images and they're not taking up space on my phone if I'm syncing to the desktop. So that's the one caveat. If I'm not syncing to the desktop, I'm just using this app for free, then there is no other place for those photos to be but on your phone. So in that case, yeah, they are taking up space in the app. So it just depends on who you are, meaning if you're a Creative Cloud member or not. If you're not a member, then the photos can only be where they are. They're on your phone. If you're a Creative Cloud Lightroom desktop member, then they're synced and they're taking up space on your computer, not so much on your phone. So hopefully it answers that. All right, so now we get down to the question, can you easily rename a collection? And the answer is yes. Let me show you where, since you asked. I'm going to go back, the arrow at the top there, I'm going to go back into collections. And now I see that Lightroom before and after Twitch. See the three little dots on the right-hand side, this column of three dots all the way down? Those are the menus for each collection. So if I tap that menu for that collection, there's the rename option right there. So if I want to rename that collection, I can. So that answers that question. Now let's go back into it. All right. Let me make sure I got everything else. Yeah, I love The Walking Dead. Woo! Wow, wow, The Walking Dead. Yeah. Someone already answered the renaming question for me before I got to the answer. Should I have an internet connection enabled on my phone just to use the app? No, you don't have to have an internet connection enabled on the phone just to use the app. The only time you need the internet connection on your phone is when you're going to sync the photos, again, a paid Creative Cloud member, to the desktop, or you're going to share the photos, which obviously you need an internet connection to share them. But if I'm working on my photos on a plane where I don't have Wi-Fi, maybe I'm traveling internationally, I don't have Wi-Fi on that plane, because I can't even use the plane excuse anymore because I fly Delta and they have Wi-Fi on 99% of their planes. But if I'm in the middle of the ocean and I don't have a Wi-Fi connection, I can absolutely fire up the app, use the app. I can be in airplane mode and not have to worry about having a connection. The only thing that won't be happening without that until I do have a connection is I won't be able to share, obviously, because I don't have a connection to share them. And if I am a Creative Cloud member, I won't be syncing until that connection is reestablished. All right, let me see what else I've got here. Already over 2,000 images and counting. Woohoo! I'm glad I'm helping you get your images organized and keeping your sanity. All right. Okay, good. I'm glad I helped you understand a little bit about how the cloud works and keeping your sanity as well. There are videos I've done on my YouTube channel on how to stay organized better with Lightroom Mobile, but maybe I should do a video, or Lightroom in general, maybe I should do a video just on organization. That might help people. All right. Okay, so just to get everyone caught up, especially if you're just getting here, we've downloaded the app. I've shown you how to create a collection, name the collection. We even went out for a second so you can see if you wanted to rename the collection. I added some existing photos that I had taken with my phone a week ago. I added them into this collection. And now I'm going to show you one more way to add photos, and that's with the Adobe camera, because maybe you don't have a cool photo that you want to use yet, and you want to take one right now of something, of your pet, of your workspace, of your neighborhood, or wherever you can point your camera right now while you're watching this, that might be cool to edit. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to use or take the same picture I take every time I do this, because I'm kind of sitting in this set that I have at home, and there's nothing really cool to photograph with the lights the way they are, except a picture I have on the wall that I always use as an example. So I'm going to go ahead and fire up the Adobe camera, which is that button at the bottom right. And there's the camera app, and I'm going to walk you through the icons at the bottom before I actually snap the picture. So first icon with the little like lightning bolt kind of icon, that's pretty obvious, but just in case you don't know what it is, that's the flash on, off, or auto. So if I tap that icon, it will let me turn the flash on, off, or auto. The second one, which is very cool, it's kind of a pro level feature, meaning that most of us, when we're taking pictures with our smartphones or point and shoot devices, we just snap a picture. But we don't think about something called white balance. And what Lightroom's camera app lets me do is it lets me set the white balance. And see the green screen there? Lets me set the white balance. So for example, I could tap and I can leave it on AWB, which is auto white balance. So if you don't know what you're doing, just leave it on auto white balance. Or you can set the white balance to a specific mode. For example, incandescent lights, I'm shooting inside. I can't remember what the icons are, but they're sunny and cloudy. So if I'm outside on a cloudy day, the cloudy icon probably would be the better white balance. What is white balance? White balance, I'm trying to think of it the simplest, easiest way to explain it. It's the way the color of the light is treated in your photo. So if you've ever had a photo that was overly yellowish or if it was overly blue, I'm going to show you some examples of how to fix those, by the way. That means that the white balance was off for those shots. It was not correct for those shots. And that wrench at the very end is my favorite because it allows me to set the white balance before I take the shot. Typically what you're going to do with that wrench is you're going to tap on it and it lets you, and here I'll go ahead and do it. I'm trying to do this with one hand, by the way. What the wrench is letting me do is pick an area that should be neutral. So see how it's kind of changing the color of the photo because it's saying that's not neutral, so I'm going to adjust everything accordingly. But if I point it at my laptop, see how it corrects the color? Because that laptop's neutral gray. It's neutral silver. So it will correct for that. So I set with that natural color first, and you want to fill the rectangle with that color as best as possible. And then that will say, okay, now I know what the white balance should be for this environment, for this room, because you've shown me something that should be neutral, and I know to adjust everything else based on that. So that's why I love the manual setting. All right, but I'm going to go back to auto just to keep it simple. And then the next one, which is the, again, kind of another pro level feature. It's the exposure compensation. So, for example, you're pointing, and I got to rest my hand for a second here. You're pointing your camera at an area that you can already see before you snap the button. It's way too bright, way too dark. And maybe if it's too dark, you want to turn on the flash, but if it's too far away, the flash won't really help. What you can do is you can dial the exposure compensation up to the left to brighten the photo before you take it, or to the right to darken the photo before you take it. So you can adjust your exposure compensation or compensate for bad exposure before you snap the photo. Now the next one is rule of thirds. Or I'm sorry, the next one is a composition feature that has rule of thirds. So the rule of thirds, right now it's on none. If I tap on rule of thirds, notice it puts this grid over it. And this is for composing your photo. So what you're supposed to do is put the most interesting parts of your photos where the lines intersect. So in each corner where you see the lines intersecting with each other, that should be, at least in one of those corners, the most interesting part of the photo. Because that's where people's eyes typically go, is to those intersection points. Next would be cropping to a square. That was important back in the old Instagram days. And next would be the level icon, which is kind of cool. It uses your device's accelerometer to let you know if the photo you're taking is level or not. Which, again, very useful when you need, like you're taking a picture of a sunset or an ocean and you want the horizon to be straight. So take it straight right off the bat. All right, and last but not least is kind of self-explanatory. It's the timer. So if you're going to put your smartphone or smart device on a tripod or mount and set the self-timer so you can jump in the shot, or just so there's no vibration. You can set the timer to 2 seconds, 5 seconds, or 10 seconds, and then snap the shutter. So we're going to leave that off, and we're on auto white balance. Good. And now I'm going to go ahead and snap this photo. All right. So I took the photo. Now we can go back. And as you can see, it added that photo to the collection. Now, let me check for questions real quick, and I'll explain something about the way or what that photo being added that way means going forward. But let me check something real quick here. All right, everyone's loving or digging the camera features. Yeah, I love them too. I asked for the camera to be built into the app selfishly because when I first started showing Lightroom Mobile, it was a pain in the butt to take a picture with the built-in phone app and then go to Lightroom and always import it. So I wanted to be able to take pictures right inside Lightroom and have them be right inside Lightroom. So the Lightroom team listened and they did it. All right, a question I saw earlier, I wanted to go ahead and just check something here. You regret you bought a professional camera app. Well, it might do something that the Lightroom or the Adobe camera doesn't do. I saw a question I wanted to address though. Hang on. Hold on. I want to scroll back. There was somebody that asked a question I wanted to address really quick. Oh, there it is. So Skimmer66, can I automatically import photos into Lightroom? And that's a good question. That's why I wanted to make sure I went back and saw it again. Yes. And here's why you might want to do that. I go back and forth with whether I do it or not, but it's nice to know I can. When you import automatically, what you're saying is, I might sometimes take photos or videos with my built-in app that's on my phone, but what I want to happen is every time I launch Lightroom, it automatically imports all those photos that I took between times I was using Lightroom. And so do I want that to happen? Yes or no? Now, for taking photos, I absolutely want that to happen. What I wish I had was a filter that says everything except screenshots. Because I take a lot of screenshots with my phone and I don't want those automatically imported. So if there was a way for the Lightroom team to say, let me turn off ping or let me turn off something that wasn't taken with the actual camera, I would have it on all the time. But since I take a lot of screenshots, I don't have it on just for that reason. So here's where it is. I can show you how to get to it. You turn it on or off as you see fit. So I'm going to go back. And I'm going to scroll up to the top, or just scroll. When you start scrolling, you notice the little LR or Lightroom icon in the upper left-hand corner. That's your menu to get to all your options. And when you go to that menu, you notice that there is a auto add photos, auto add videos, and sync only over Wi-Fi for people that are syncing. I have unlimited data on my cellular plan, so I don't care if I use data. But if I was on a limited plan and I didn't want it using up a lot of bandwidth while I really didn't need it to, I would turn on the sync only on Wi-Fi. But the auto add photos and auto add videos, which thank God they separated those two, because maybe I do want it to auto add all the photos, but I don't want it to auto add all the videos, or vice versa. That is an option that you can do. All right, so if I go back down, I want to point out one more thing. So the question then would be, well, where does it auto add them? Let's say I turn that on and I start snapping photos every day with the regular camera just because I forget to use the Adobe camera. And now I launch the Adobe app and it brings them all in. Where does it put them? Which collection does it put them in? And by default, it would just add them to the Lightroom list of photos at the top, but it won't put them in a collection automatically. So what you might want to do, I think I made one earlier. I made a collection called iPhoneography, just because I was trying to come up with a name, but that means those are shots I took with my iPhone. And if I want it to auto add to that collection, I hit the menu for that collection. And notice there's an auto add, because I have auto add switched off. But if I had auto add switched on, I'd be able to tap this button right here to auto add to this collection. And that means it will automatically put every photo that it brings in automatically in that collection. I can still put them in other collections, but that's where it's going to put them first. So just know that yes, you can turn on auto add, for both video and images, and you can designate which collection they're automatically going to be added to. And yes, you can put them and copy them or move them to other collections after the fact. And I'm glad you brought that question up, because one of the things I often forget to mention, and this reminded me to mention it, is that Lightroom Mobile is not just for managing your photos. It can also manage the videos you take with your device. So when you shoot a video with your smartphone, heaven forbid your tablet, when you shoot one with your device, and you can add those into Lightroom manually or automatically, and they will be in the collections just like everything else. You can play them in Lightroom. If you are a Lightroom member, CC member, or Creative Cloud member, you can sync them, and they will sync the videos up as well. Now, speaking of syncing, again, that's the one non-free feature. I want to mention one more thing, because we just took that photo with the camera, built-in camera. Your camera's resolution will vary by manufacturer, by features. So, for example, the iPhone 6s Plus can shoot now 12 megapixel images. Before that, the iPhones were 8 megapixels or less. Some Android phones shoot way more than that. I think there's one that shoots like, I don't know, 42 megapixels, something crazy, like some ridiculously amount of data. If I'm shooting with my device, then I probably want every pixel, every bit of that resolution if I am syncing when I get to. So when you shoot with your device, what we're syncing to Lightroom Mobile and back down to your computer is the full resolution of whatever your device captured. For video, if I shoot a video at 1080p or 4K, which I can do on this phone, I want that 4K video when I get back to my computer. So again, that's a paid feature, that one thing, but if you are syncing, I just wanted to make that point that if you took a picture, you're getting the full resolution of that picture sent up and down. All right, let me check for questions real quick. All right, more messages below. I think I missed a few. Ooh, I did miss a few. All right, so here's a question. Why does it randomly sign me out? That is a battle we have been fighting with some of the mobile apps. Lightroom Mobile seems to be more forgiving for that. But sometimes it's either due to an update on the app itself or an update on the servers, where it just wants you to re-authenticate with your Adobe ID. I feel your pain, and I don't think it should ever force you to re-log in unless it absolutely has to. And I've been fighting that battle for you. So hopefully we will someday not have it do that all the time, or as much. All right, what else? Cool. All right, and thanks StarCrunch for reminding me about the tweet. Okay, so if you guys found your picture and now you've imported it, and before now we get to the point where we want to do some editing, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to bring up the URL, or not the URL, but the tweet I want you to do. Here it is. So you're going to tweet, hey, at Adobe channel, look at this is the specific hashtag you want to use. If you use anything else, we won't see it. Hashtag LR for Lightroom before and after. And I'm going to show you how to actually do the tweet. So let's say this is going to be my before picture. What I would do is in the upper right hand corner, there's a share icon. And if I share this picture, I can then tweet it right from here. So if I tweet, brings up my Twitter, my tweet sheet, and then I can say, hey, at Adobe channel, there it is. You should probably follow the Adobe channel if you're not already, because you'll find out about other cool broadcasts that are going on. Look at my Lightroom before and after. All right, so just make sure you put that hashtag in. That hashtag is the most important part of the tweet. Even if you don't say to look at my or hey, you got to make sure you put in that Lightroom before and after. Post. Okay, so I just tweeted that out, and we'll start looking for those shortly. Okay, so we spent a lot of time on the setup. Now let's talk about some editing. If I were going to edit this, which is not really the shot I really wanted to edit, but let's say I just wanted to make this look better. Not a whole lot I can do, but if I did, what I can do is once you tap on a picture, here, let's go back, let's start from scratch. Once you tap on a picture, you're either on your phone, you're either going to be in one of two modes. It depends on where it left you off. If I swipe right at the bottom, notice you see a flag and a star. That means you're in the rating mode. We're going to do that later in the second half. So if you're in that mode, if you see that star and that flag, then swipe left to get to the editing. All right. I've got better examples. I'm going to now just take you through a flurry of examples of editing so you can get some ideas of what to do. But for this, it's really just not a good picture. It's a picture of a picture. So it's not a whole lot I can do with it. But one of the things I might want to encourage you to do is remember that rule of thirds that came up in the camera about the composition, about, you know, the interesting points of the photo. Resist the urge to center your subject in the frame. Right now my subject is fairly centered. So what I might do after the fact, if I made that mistake or just made that composition boo-boo, then what I can do is tap my crop tool. And when I tap the crop tool, let me go back in case you missed it. It's the one that says crop. If I tap the crop tool, then what I can do is I can begin to crop the photo. Now, right now it's showing me the aspect ratio is 3:4. And next to that it says aspect free. That's the important part. Because actually there are two important parts. If you have it locked, that means it's only going to crop to a 3:4. If you say free, then that means you can crop it to your heart's content. You can make it any shape you want. And if you want to crop it in this way, now I've made a photo that looks better than a photo on the wall, just by cropping it. And once I'm done, I can tap, and that becomes my new photo. All right, so the next thing, let me move my pointer out of the way. The next thing is that I just want to point out that any of these edits you're doing are non-destructive. So what we can do is we can go ahead and let me see here. All right, so someone's asking, is the adjustment brush in Lightroom Mobile? And it is not at this time. All right. And let's do this real quick. All right, there we go. All right, don't worry about it. Just proud to be. I kind of took care of it. All right, so next, let's go in and look at some of the other adjustments. I did a crop, and you notice there are two other buttons next to it. There's presets and adjust. If you tap on presets, that will give you the categories of built-in presets that are the same built-in presets that are in Lightroom on the desktop. So for example, I could go tap on creative, and I can see all the various creative ways to make my photo look different. Now, I'm not going to say the word better, but different. Depends on your interpretation of better. So maybe I want to try cream tone. It's okay. Maybe I want to try cross process. Kind of make it look kind of more dramatic, more spacey like. Maybe I want to try old polar. That just makes the colors more rich in this particular case. So that looks pretty cool. I like that. If I want to go to black and white, I've got different black and white ones I can pick. So I can pick film. I can pick auto black and white. So it kind of chooses what it thinks the black and white should look like. I can choose contrast low. I could choose portrait black and white, that would be usually used for people. Contrast higher. So for example, I can play with any of those, but wait, now Terry, you just took the color out of the photo. What now? I can get right back to the photo because none of this is permanent. None of this is destructive, including the crop. If I want to uncrop the photo now, go back to crop, and the entire photo's there. I can uncrop and see a little bit more of the photo. So you're never really damaging or touching the pixels in the photo. You're applying effects, crops, adjustments, and all of these are non-destructive. So let me go back to the presets again. I kind of didn't like that one as much as I liked the other one, Old Polar. All right, so now that I've got that one, those are all the various ones you can do for presets, and you've got others. You've got effects, you've got camera, you've got, and oh, by the way, I should have mentioned I left off that button. There was one more button in the camera app next to the shutter that brings up these. These are camera filters that you can take while you're shooting. I forgot to show that in the camera app. Just want to make sure I got everybody. Yeah, again, if you're doing the challenge, we're trying to do it all in Lightroom Mobile. So I applaud your efforts. Yeah, there are other apps that do some of the other things people are talking about in the chat, but we're trying to do this day in Lightroom Mobile. Okay, so I did some crops. I did a crop. I did some presets. Now let's go to adjust. Adjust is one of the areas where I spend most of my time. I crop and then I'm in adjust. I rarely do the presets because I kind of just like making it look the way I want it to look on my own. The presets are great because they're quick, they're fast, they're one tap, you're in. You can experiment, go back and forth. You can play around. But when I know kind of what I'm looking for, kind of where I want that photo direction to go, then what I'll do is I'll typically, hang on for a second here, I'll typically go in and do my own in the adjustment area. Now, not everyone is going to be comfortable doing their own edits right off the bat, and that's okay. That's why they're presets. That's why there's both. All right, so let's start by knowing that this is a list of options. Right now, that little icon on the left-hand side that looks like a camera shutter, that's actually a pop-up menu. When you tap, that goes between basic, tone curve, vignetting, split tone, color and black and white mode, and dehaze. And when this first started, when this app first came out, all you had was basic. Tone curve, or then we added dehaze. Then we added tone curving, or tone curve, vignetting, split toning. We added all these adjustments, and if you're a Lightroom desktop user, you know these names already. These are the same ones that are on the desktop. But let's start with basic. We're on basic already. And black and white on or off. You kind of know what that does. If I turn it on, it's a black and white now. If I turn it off, it's a toggle back and forth. It's now off. White balance. We talked about this earlier. I can do as shot, auto, or custom. And notice there's an eyedropper. I'm going to show you that eyedropper on a different photo. So I'm going to leave the eyedropper, I'm going to leave the white balance where it is. Temperature. Now, even if you set a perfect white balance, you get the white balance just the way you want. That doesn't mean that it looks good. It might be mathematically correct white balance that's still too cool or too warm. So what the temperature says is, I'm going to let you fine tune it. I'm going to let you tweak it a little bit. So if this was just a little too orange, too yellowish, too warm, then I can cool it off a little bit by dragging a little to the left. If it wasn't warm enough, and that's usually with people in flesh tones, then I could warm it up a little bit more, make the person look a little bit more human. So you can adjust that temperature to your heart's content. Tint, I rarely do, but that means that the color is off, and I'm trying to fix the color. The color's not off in this case, so it's just going to make it look worse. But if I were trying to adjust the color of the photo to make it look correct, then I would adjust the tint. All right, auto tone on or off. That's letting the computer or the app do what it thinks. And one of the most used, or I should say, probably the one you will use more than many of the other ones, is exposure. I love exposure. because what it can often do is rescue that photo that's too dark or too light. So if I go into exposure, I can make this photo a little lighter or make it a little darker. Now, sometimes exposure isn't what you need, meaning if you adjust the overall photo to be brighter or darker, then it will mess up something else in the photo. So in other words, maybe the photo looks okay, but there's a part of the photo that's too dark, and if you make it lighter, the parts that were okay are now too light, or vice versa. So that's why we scroll over past contrast, you have shadows, you have highlights, shadows, and whites. So for example, if I tap on shadows, this means leave the highlights alone. They're good. I just want to adjust the shadows of the photo to bring out those dark shadow areas, but keep everything else looking decent, looking okay. So same thing, maybe the shadows are okay, but the highlights are too bright or too dark. So you can go in and adjust the highlights or the whites, either one. The whites would actually be the opposite of the shadows. But you have highlights, shadows, and whites to do respectively, and actually, I take that back. Highlights and shadows would be the opposite. Whites and blacks would be the opposite of each other. So the blacks of the photo, I can make darker and make more detailed, more punchy, more contrasty. So again, you can try any one of those four to specifically get to areas of the photo that are too bright, too dark, too shadowy, too light, whatever it is, and make those adjustments independently of each other. All right, next. Okay. Just got passed a note. All right. I will do that. Thanks, Rufus. All right. Lost my train of thought. Okay. We were on highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. And let's go to now clarity, vibrance, saturation. Okay. So clarity is one of those things that I only use on specific kinds of photos. And it's easy to remember what clarity is for. I shouldn't say for. I'll say how I use it. I use clarity on everything except women and babies. So let's think of it that way. Because with women and babies, you typically want them to remain looking soft, looking like they're not hard edged. Guys with a lot of, skin features and beards and things like that, it's okay if they look more rugged, they look more rough. That's okay. But skin that should look soft will basically look less soft if I use more clarity. So just think of clarity as anything. You can use it on anything, but it will look best if you don't use it on women and babies, because we want women and babies to remain looking their best, looking soft, softer. All right. Now, can women look hard? Absolutely. And if it's a pose or an outfit or a rugged look and you want them to have that extra clarity, that extra punch, go for it. But typically, if it's a portrait, that's a normal portrait, then don't use clarity on women and babies. All right. So that means use it on landscapes. Absolutely. Use it on travel photos, cars, objects. Absolutely. Guys that you're trying to make look more defined. Absolutely. Or any other kind of photo. But those are typically the areas I stay away from. So here's what clarity does. Look at the photo. I'm going to reduce the clarity. Look how much less detailed the stones looked, because I actually removed clarity from it. If I punch the clarity up, look at how much more defined those areas of the rocks look, because we're trying to make them look more rocky, more edgy, more defined. Okay. All right. making sure I got everything. I did. Okay. All right. So clarity. If you shot something that's not a baby or woman, female, by all means, and a female that's not trying to, you're not trying to make her look rough, then use clarity on it. Otherwise, don't use the clarity. Or otherwise use the clarity. All right. So in this case, I want more clarity. I want those rocks to look more defined. Vibrance versus saturation. Those are two areas that kind of almost look like they do the same thing. And there are rules for vibrance and rules for saturation as well. When do I use vibrance? On people in general. Men, women, babies, people. Because what vibrance will do is it will make the colors that they're wearing that are around them in the photo look more saturated without adversely affecting the skin tone. Now, if I punch vibrance all the way up, yeah, it will start making their skin look bad too. But what I'm saying is you can use a lot more vibrance without affecting skin tone than you can with saturation. So saturation doesn't care if it's a person. It's going to make everything more saturated. It's going to make skin look more beige, orange, green, whatever. It's going to make everything look more saturated. So for example, vibrance, if I tap on it and punch the vibrance up, and I'm overdoing it on purpose just so you can see the difference. That's more vibrant. Look at the blues in the sky. Look at the orange in the mountains versus less vibrant. And you can see the difference. So you have a lot more play in that area or to work with that photo. Saturation, on the other hand, here, let me go back to vibrance and set vibrance back down to 0. Saturation is when I would use saturation on landscapes over vibrance because I'm not trying to protect anything in particular. And typically it doesn't require as much saturation as it might require vibrance. Yeah, so someone on StarCrunch is reminding me, so if I ever wanted to see the before and after, hold down 3 fingers. So that's the before when we first took the shot and the after the adjustment. So at any time you can see that before and after when you're looking at your photo in Lightroom. Thanks to little things like that I take for granted and forget about. All right, and we did all of that just on basic. That was just basic. So there are several other areas we can work in. Let's switch photos because I'm already tired of this one. And I have some other examples I want to show. So let me go to my other Lightroom before and after. And I'm actually going to show you, I'm going to take you through an editing process on several of these photos. And I'm just going to do kind of hopefully getting to all of the areas that we didn't touch on, but just showing you what you can do. So in this particular photo, this is actually 2 photos next to each other that are exactly the same. So I created this on the desktop as a virtual copy, which is a desktop feature. Don't worry about it right now, just so I could have a side by side. So let's say that's our before and this is our after. What I want to do, I want to always be able to get back to the absolute original before I show you what I do to this one. Now, I'll give you a funny story about this photo real quick. I took this photo back in 2009, 10, 11, something like that. I want to say 2010. I planned a getaway for myself, just by myself. I wanted to go and shoot this famous area. This is not Grand Canyon. A lot of people mistake that. This is actually Page, Arizona. It's near the Grand Canyon, but it's not the Grand Canyon. It's Page, Arizona, and this particular area is called Horseshoe Bend. And I'd always seen these fantastic pictures of Antelope Canyon, Horseshoe Bend, all these other Bend, B-E-N-D, all these other areas. And I, flew out there, drove 5 hours to get to it, hiked up a mountain, walked a mile in the desert, lugging gear, trying to race the sun, which is rapidly setting. I get set up, snap, 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 take all these pictures. I'm like having the time of my life. I get back to my hotel room and I see this. And I actually started crying. Like I actually had tears coming down my eyes because I'm thinking to myself, you just wasted a trip. You came all the way out here and that's what you got? That's the best you could do? It didn't look anything like the photos I had seen in the magazines, online, other photographers had gone there. And I start with everything, you start looking at what's bothering you the most. What was bothering me the most in this particular photo was the sky or lack thereof. And I started working with this photo. I even went as far as to replace the sky in Photoshop. I did everything I could, and I just couldn't get it to look right. I could not get it to look the way I wanted it to look. And I was in depression at that point because, again, I wasted all this time and money taking this shot, and it didn't look right. And then I said, what did I do wrong? I Googled it. I Googled this photo. And what I realized with not everyone, but 80% of the photos that I saw of this very spot, they had done one thing. "80% of the photos I saw weren't showing the sky." Now, yeah, they're 20% beautiful skies. And it just depends on what day you're out there, whether there's cloud cover or not, what time you're out there, whether or not you'll get a good sky. But when there's a part of your photo, and this is the point I'm trying to make, if there's a part of your photo that's not crucial to the photo, but it's being more of a distraction in the photo, remove it. If you don't have the ability to reshoot it, just remove that part of the distracting part of the photo. And once I cropped it down a little bit, now I could concentrate on the rest of the photo. The other problems are easy to fix. But that sky was driving me nuts. So if there's something like that going on in your photos right now, ask yourself, can it be cropped? And if the answer is yes, problem solved. If the answer is no, then we'll address some of those other problems. We'll address some of those other problems going forward. All right. Let's see. Okay. So now, again, took this photo back in 2010. There was no Lightroom Mobile. There was no feature I'm about to show you right now. I had to do everything manually. I had to do everything actually in Camera Raw and Photoshop back then. Back then, I did, 10 different things to get the photo to look better. And it worked. I have used this photo a million times. It was printed out big on the wall and everything. But if I had had this one thing back then, I would have saved myself a half hour easily. Here it is. Go to Adjust. Tap the shutter icon on the left-hand side again. And go to Dehaze. Dehaze is my best friend for landscape photos. I use it even when I don't think there's a haze problem, just to see what it does. So if I tap Dehaze, Dehaze is simple. If I tap on the Dehaze icon at the bottom there, I get a slider from left to right. Left adds more haze. Right removes the haze. Had I had this back in 2010, my life would have been so much better. Because I can take a photo that looked like it had too much haze in it and remove the haze with a simple slider. Now, that darkened it a little bit more than I wanted, but look at what that did from, oops, sorry about that, guys, hang on. My computer doesn't think I was doing anything, so it went into screensaver mode. Okay. So look at what that did. Oops, sorry about that. Just that quickly and easily. And yes, you can work in landscape mode, which I've now discovered. Okay, and again, this is before, after. Before, after. Now, we're not done, but that was just with one single slider. So now let's continue on. Let's go back to, now that I've done the dehaze, I can now concentrate on the other things in the photo. So let's go back to basic. When I go back to basic, I can kind of say, well, it's a little dark. I'm not really crazy about that. I don't want it to be black and white. The white balance and temperature are fine. The color tint is fine. I might turn on auto tone, what it does, whether I like it or not. It made it darker, but more contrasty, but I can do those things manually. All right, so now, what do I want to happen? Well, first I might go to exposure and just make the exposure a little brighter, just a little bit, just a little brighter than it was. All right, contrast. I can play with contrast all day long on a landscape. So I can definitely make this photo more contrasty. Yeah, something like that. And highlights and shadows look fairly decent, but if I were to go to my shadows, maybe I want to make my shadows even more defined, make them darker, or less defined, make them lighter. So I think a little bit more defined actually would look better. All right, and oh yeah, it's time for some clarity. We can up the clarity on this photo, bring out the rocks, bring out the mountain, and maybe a little bit more. Oh, contrast is already up. Good, good, good. Now, vibrance and saturation. The colors are pretty vibrant the way they are, but we can always see what more we'll do. Maybe in this case, I do just want a little bit more vibrance. I don't want to overall saturate the photo, although I might try it just to see what it does. A little bit, just a little bit of saturation. So again, before, that dull shot that I cried over in my hotel room became that with some simple non-destructive sliders in my phone. And keep that in mind. I'm doing this in my phone today, which that was unheard of in 2010. All right, so now that we got this photo, now I want to share it. So let's go back, and we've got our before. This is where we started. And we've got our after. That's where we ended up. So if I wanted to share this now, I can do the same thing, share, because I want to see your before and afters as well. So we're going to go to Twitter, and we're going to do just, hey, just so it doesn't start. I could do period, but Adobe channel. There we go. Lightroom before and after. All right. So we'll post that on Twitter, so you guys, if you're following me on Twitter, you can see that as well. And it probably wouldn't hurt to do the before as well. Real quick. This way you'll see where we came from. Oh, I didn't want to save that to the camera roll. Did that by mistake. I wanted to tweet. Channel. And you would think I'd be smart enough to copy this hashtag so I don't have to keep typing it over and over again, but that would be silly. Let's just copy that so we don't have to do it over and over again. Okay. All right, so now I posted both of those, so if you're following me on Twitter, you can go ahead and see those. All right, quick. Where we are, we're running out of time already. Jesus. Okay, so let's move on. A couple quick other kinds of things you can do. Again, dehaze isn't just for your landscapes. Here's another photo I took in Egypt. Worst possible time of day to be out photographing. Don't go out and photograph in the middle of the day in a bright sunny day, because you'll get this. I kept the photo in the folder even though I never ever used it, because who would ever use this? It's just horrible, horrible, bad, unattractive lighting in the photo. So adjust, dehaze, slide, and now I have a photo I can actually use. All right, keep that in mind. All right, next. So we know what dehaze does. Here's a photo, and I told you I'd talk about white balance. Here's a photo of Lisa. A couple things I would do for pet photography. Number one, I would go into the adjust, and the white balance looks off. It looks a little just off. All right, so I don't know what color to say. So white balance instead of as shot. Now, luckily, Lisa's on a nice gray cushion, so I can just tap the selector, and I can say, adjust the white balance based on that. Notice as you move this around, it will adjust the white balance. It will show you what the white balance is going to be just by where you put it. So I put it on a nice gray area, boom, white balance is adjusted. Now, if I go in and I say that I want to adjust the exposure, it's a little too dark, adjust the exposure, bring the puppy out, and there we are. Now she's got some lint over here we want to take care of. We want to get the paw shadows off of there, or paw prints, but you get the idea. Before very quick. Same thing here. Composition will kill you every time. So in this case, a few things wrong with this. Crop. Let's adjust the composition a little bit more. Let's put the most interesting part of the photo right there. And again, put the most interesting part of the photo right there. And next thing we might want to do is we want to go in and adjust the white balance, which is also off. I see it was set to fluorescent. So maybe I might want to try daylight or cloudy. Now this one, why am I getting more? Because these are the ones that came from my DSLR. My DSLR is saying, hey, you had all these choices and you had this on the wrong one. You had it on fluorescent. Do you want to fix it? Yes, I do. So it's not really cloudy. It's more of a daylight kind of look. Or I could use the selector and adjust and play with it as well. So we'll use that. Also, we can go and look and see if dehaze will do anything good for us in this case. And it does. It brings out the mountains a little bit, maybe too much. And here's the other thing I don't want you to be afraid to do. I don't want you to be afraid to, I don't want you to be afraid to say, maybe that's just not a good photo. What makes this not such a good photo is even though the car looks phenomenal, everything else looks bad. Sky is bad. There is no sky, just like on Horseshoe Bend. The mountains, I can mess with them. I could try and make them look better, but really they're just not going to look a whole lot better in this photo. So don't be afraid to say, hey, maybe this isn't the one I share. Maybe this isn't the one that will be okay. Because while Lightroom or any other photo editing app can make changes, they can't take a bad photo and make it look good. They can take a bad photo and maybe make it look better, but it's still a bad photo. So don't be afraid to just say, maybe that one's not worth the time. The other thing is when you run into situations like this where you've got, this was not an intentional photo bomb, but as I was snapping this long exposure, someone raised their camera up and took a shot, and that's what that blur is. So I never used this shot for that reason. Maybe I want to go in and fix that a couple of ways. I could obviously crop it in Lightroom, but I'm going to show you another way in a not too distant future of how to fix that one. Just another photo tip. When you're trying to show something that's large, like for example, this. I don't know how big that is. Is that 10 feet in the air off the ground, or is it 100 feet off the ground? How big are those caverns? How big are those mountains? So whenever you can, put something in your photo to show perspective. That's a person that just happened to be shooting. He was shooting the other way, looking at the lights, looking at everything. Now you get an idea of that foot tall person, how big that really is. So don't be afraid to put a reference thing in your photo to show how big, or if you're trying to show something big, how big it actually is. Also, timing is everything. So here's a photo. We call this the sand falls. And you're like, wow, there's actually a sand fall there. The sand just keeps falling. No, because it would run out of sand eventually. What happens? It has a shovel, and they toss sand up on top for people to take photos. And of course, I could take that photo and people would say, wow, that's great. Or I could wait and get that photo. So timing is also key. Don't take a photo and just walk away. Maybe it'll get better. Maybe if you just wait a few more minutes and keep snapping, you'll get a better choice to work with. All right. Dun, 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 dun. Let's check the chat here real quick. All right, up next is Beetlejuice, by the way. All right, I missed some questions. Go ahead and go back and look up. You would prefer, okay, I'll keep that in mind for going forward. Unfortunately, to get a side-by-side view in Twitter, you'd have to tweet both pictures. So you'd have to manually do that. How do you get rid of the lint in Lisa's photos or the guy with the camera that came up? We're going to talk about that. You wouldn't do it in Lightroom or Lightroom Mobile because there's no spot removal tool in Lightroom Mobile yet at this point. And yet is not a promise. Okay. Jan's on as well. Hey, Jan, how's it going? All right. Oh, let me keep going. All right, so that's what it looks like on a beautiful day. Beautiful sky. See the difference? Some days you just don't get a good shot because the weather doesn't cooperate. Same thing here. This was a shot I would have never used. I was closer looking down. But again, with the adjustments that I can now do, and I can't stress dehaze enough as a good starting point, you might actually end up with something that you can use. All right, let's look at some of the other adjustments before I run out of time. I just want to make one more change here. That yellowish coming from the sky is a little bit overbearing in this case. Something more like that. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, abort, abort. All right, something more like that. Okay. Okay, let's talk about some of the other adjustments. Let's pick a different photo. Let's pick... we'll pick the sand falls. Okay, so what else can I do besides dehaze and basic? We got all the ones in between. So if I go to tone curve. Now tone curve is, yes, update the process version. Yes, do that. You won't have that message, by the way. That was because this is an older photo. But what the tone curve allows me to do is switch the point curve between red, green, and blue, which is what the photo is, or any individual color that I want to work with. So if I just want to adjust the blues in this photo, I could tap on blue. I can go in. I don't know why it's not letting me actually do it. No, for some reason in this particular one I can't make the individual adjustments. But anyway, let's go in. Hold on, folks. I want to check something real quick. I want to make sure it's not throwing me off because of that particular photo. Yeah, something about that photo. This is what I should have gotten that it did not like. So let me go back. Let me try that again. I did update the process version, so it should let me do it. Okay, now it's there. All right, so what this allows me to do is, for example, if I just want to adjust the blues in the photo, you have this, right now, it's a curve, even though it's not curved yet. At the very top, you have your highlights. At the very bottom, you have your shadows. So those 2 points are the shadows. Everything else, midtones, and everything else in between. So if I wanted to adjust the blues in the shadow, I can pull down in that particular area of the photo or up to make them more blue or less blue in that particular area of the photo. So same thing here. You can adjust these individually and adjust individual colors. So that's what the point curve is all about, where those fine adjustments of individual colors or the overall photo. So for example, the reds in this photo, or that, And that's making it look worse. But anyway, you get the idea. All right. That's what the tone curve is all about. Vignetting is fairly self-explanatory. Vignetting allows me to vignette the corners of the photo. So I can darken the corners to kind of make it more dramatic, which actually for this photo looks pretty good if I don't overdo it. Maybe something like that, where I'm drawing the viewer's attention to the center of the photo. You can adjust the midpoint. So you can have it feather out more. You can adjust the amount of feathering to soften it up. You can adjust the roundness. Right now it's very round. You can make it more round or less round, more rounded corners. And the style is a highlight. It could be color priority or paint overlay. And you can adjust the highlights and shadows of it as well. So you can get very detailed with your vignette. And split toning. So actually, let me go back to, I'm going to reset the vignette. Reset the vignette. And let's go back to, or let's go to split toning. Split toning is a cool technique that allows me to go in and apply in specific colors to the highlights or shadows or midtones of a particular photo. So for example, we typically do split toning. Let me see if this will work here. Just want to test something real quick. All right. So that's what I wanted to test. I wanted to go in. We typically do our reset it. Usually you want to do split tonings with a monochrome photo just because it's easier. So I switched to black and white first by going to black and white in the basic tab, and then I went to split toning, which now gives me basically a 0 point of starting, meaning I can now make any area of the photo whatever color I want based on my desire for that color. So for example, if I go to the shadows hue, what this is first letting me do is pick what color do I want my shadows to be. So for example, if I want them to kind of maybe look more sepia tone, something like that, I can, or something totally drastically different, I can. And then you can apply the amount of saturation of that color in that area. So my shadows are now way more purpley shadowed versus way less purpley shadowed. So that's what split toning is. It's a way of adding color to the highlights, shadows, or highlights or shadows is the easiest way to say it. Do you do it to both? Do you do shadows and highlights? I typically don't, because it never ever turns out good. So I typically don't do both, but you can do it that way. How do you know what is neutral gray? Lightroom, when the color picker. Can you use black, white for reference if you don't know what neutral gray is? And that's a good point. Not every photo is going to have something gray to tap on. If you took a photo of a red dress, there's nothing gray to tap on in that red dress. So typically we always look for a gray first. If you don't have a neutral gray, then the next thing you might want to look for is something that should be black or should be white. If you don't have that, then you're going to have to do it manually. There's nothing for the eyedropper to work on. So yeah, you don't always have a neutral gray to do that. All right, I'm going to go look at some photos in just a minute too that you guys have submitted. And did I cover everything in that photo? Hang on, let me go back. Let me do one more. Did I do everything? Oh, I didn't do color black and white. Okay, so this is actually pretty darn cool. Color black and white allows me to adjust the colors in a photo as a color photo, or adjust the black and white based on the original color of the photo, which is very, very cool. You also now have this target adjustment tool. I was trying to remember the name. So the target adjustment tool allows me to tap on the photo in a particular color and adjust it based on what I tapped. left, right, up, or down. Actually, it's up and down is working better. So it says, hey, you tapped on something that's red and orange. I'm going to adjust the red and oranges in this photo. Or if I tap over here, first tap the adjustment tool, then tap over here. Hey, you tapped on something that's kind of bluish and purplish. I'm going to adjust the bluish and purplish in the photo. And that's the overall photo, not just that spot. So the target adjustment, color black and white mode comes to Lightroom. Now let me reset it and let me show you how I use it mostly. Where I use it mostly is setting the photo to black and white. And I want to adjust the way my black and white looks. So by adjusting black and white, tap on luminance, tap the target adjustment tool. Okay, just want to make sure. Adjustment tool. I can make the same adjustments, although it's not doing what I thought it would do. Hang on. There we go. I want black and white. And you can adjust the overall colors in your black and white based on the original, or you can adjust your overall tone of your black and white based on the original colors in the photo. So there's a lot of orange in that photo, so just by dragging the orange around, I can adjust how that photo looks in black and white because I'm adjusting the original orange color, or what used to be orange. So whites, again, this is all custom. If this is like, oh my God, it's too much, that's what presets are for. But if you want total control over the look of your photo, you can do it easily. All right, we got like 25 minutes left. I've taken you through every editing option here. And now let's go ahead and wrap up a couple of things. So let me first check my Twitter. Hey Beetlejuice, I see him on, at least I see him on our Slack thing here. Let me go to my Twitter. Twitter. All right, let's go in and take a look at that hashtag. Let me see what you guys came up with. Let me just scroll down real quick, make sure they're all safe for work. Okay, they all look good. And let's move these over. All right, so this is what you guys submitted so far. Good. Someone even took the trouble to go in and say the before and after word. Awesome. And again, just taking a photo like that, it's okay. But just making it a little bit better with the color treatment and the vignette. Good job. Same thing here, adding a little bit more contrast and color to the photo. Awesome. Adjusting the vignette and the shadows, it looks like a little bit in that one. Good. Taking out the distracting object. Perfect. Great job, guys. The distracting object being the hand. All right. I see. Oh, good job here. I really like this one. Good job. So again, lost in the shadows. Can't really even see the dog's face. Brought it out, changed the color a little bit, made that starburst look fantastic. So whoever did these, great job thus far. And I'll pick one of those and we'll do an award of some kind. I'll see what I can give away. I think I'll probably be able to give away at least a Creative Cloud photography plan to our lucky winner. I'll take it upon myself to announce that. I kind of really like this. Did this. Matt Benson, good job. Matt, you're leading in my first first look through real quick. Oh, this is also a great job. I missed the after. Yeah, because again, look at this photo. The water doesn't look good. It's really, no real point of focus here. That made the photo look a lot better. Just the adjustments that were made there. So you guys are on it. You guys are doing a great job here. All right. Looking at your before and after, I don't see a ton of difference there, but thanks for trying. Oh, good job on composition here. So see the difference here? Look at how much, not only with the color treatment and the cropping, but just the composition, just moving that bit more off center draws me to it because it's like, what's that over there? So great job on whoever did this one too. Matter Badia from Adobe. You can't win. You're disqualified. You have your own contest. I'm not going to let someone from Adobe win, but good job. I like it. All right, so good job so far on those. Yours doesn't show up? Well, I might have to refresh it or scroll down. So that's why I said I'll wait before I do the actual awarding of the prize here. So if yours didn't show up, don't worry. Yeah, those are guys. Good job. All right, let's keep going. One more thing real quick here. Hang on, guys. All right. I want to point out something I'm going to be doing new starting on Tuesday. So my next stream, and before I forget, so I'm going to show it now. You'll post at blogs.adobe.com/creativecloud, and you'll see an announcement for what I'm going to be doing starting next week. So I normally am on Tuesdays and Fridays, just like I am now, from 10 a.m. Eastern Time till noon, 7 a.m. to 9 Pacific. I'm going to divide that show up starting Tuesday to be the first hour being kind of whatever we normally do, where it could be any product, it could be photography, it could be Lightroom, it could be InDesign, it could be Muse, whatever. But the second hour, so from 8 to 9 Pacific Time or 11 to noon Eastern Time, it will be Introduction to Photoshop. So starting March 22nd, I will be spending each week until we're done on all of these topics for an entire hour. So again, this is free. Join here if you're watching the replay at twitch.tv/Adobe. And thanks for letting me or reminding me, Rufus, to announce my new show here on my stream. All right. Can you turn a black and white in Lightroom to find the neutral gray before making any other adjustments? Not really, because once it's black and white, that's not really the color of the photo. So I don't think that would work. You can try it, but I don't think it would. All right. Okay, so people are still tweeting. Good, good, good. Awesome work. Okay, let's finish up. So we got like 18 more minutes. All right, so let's continue on. And let's, here, let's see if we can do this. Someone said they kind of wanted me to go landscape, so let's see if this works. All right, so here's Lightroom Mobile in landscape mode. I'm not sure that I like it, but here it is. Meaning for this broadcast, I do like it though. All right, I just want to point out some other things you might want to try or think about, or things to kind of like do as a checklist when you're out taking photos. Number one, don't be afraid to get in the photo. And again, use that to show perspective. Number two, always remember, if you're on a tourist spot, to take something that kind of shows how big that spot is. In this case, a panorama. Now, again, I could adjust that, crop it, whatever, but just kind of just giving you a broad look at this beautiful cathedral in Milan. All right. Also work from different vantage points. This is a church in Milan, or that actual cathedral, I think, and shooting up for a perspective, or getting up high and shooting down, kind of showing people what's around you and what you can do. Don't be afraid to take the shot out of the plane window. I know it's cliche, we always do it, We never really use them. They're really bad. They just don't look good. But with a little dehaze and a little work, you can actually take a photo outside the plane window that just, if nothing else, tells the story, just kind of giving people a quick flyover as you were coming in or leaving. Don't make it the main part of your shot or your album. All right, things like this where maybe you're just showing the detail in the work that's around you. So I could even crop in maybe to just that, and maybe that new photo, just showing the beautiful work on these columns and the little faces along the way that I'm just now noticing for the first time. So things like that will always, you can still have the shot of the bigger scene, but when you zoom in and you do like this, that just takes your photography up that extra notch. When you go somewhere famous, like Paris, people expect the gratuitous shot. They expect the shot of the Eiffel Tower. They expect the shot of the Golden Gate Bridge. They expect the shot of all the various places that have landmarks. You got to take the landmark shot. Just people won't be satisfied if you don't. When you take the landmark shot, that doesn't mean you take the landmark shot and you just walk away and say, okay, I got it, so now everyone will really know I was in Paris and I got the shot that everyone really wants to see. Don't stop there. Take different angles, take different perspectives, take different shots that people may not have ever seen before, different angles of that shot. And again, this thing, the Eiffel Tower has been photographed 10 million, 30 million different ways. There's probably not a new perspective that you're going to get that someone hasn't already gotten. But what you can do, you're likely to show a new perspective to your viewers that most likely they have not seen if you just take the time to do it. Like this, shooting from laying on the ground, shooting straight up into the Eiffel Tower. There was like a tennis ball hanging down for their games over there, and it drove me crazy that it was there, but I get it. It was or tennis or soccer, I can't remember. But the ball hanging down for the games that were going on over there, because that was the big thing hanging from the other day. So I have that story to tell as a part of it. So don't just take the shot everyone expects you to take. Take a different angle, take a different position, take just a piece of it, like the detailed work in something that most people don't pay attention to or don't take the time to photograph. Take it from a distance, take it from areas where, you know, again, different hiding in the grass there that people may not see every day. For example, in the Louvre, taking it from looking out versus always the shots we see that we expect from the outside looking in. All right, so when you take those shots, again, keep in mind that everyone expects the landmark shots of the place you're going to, but that doesn't mean you have to take those. All right, and also don't forget to take things that, again, most people don't think about, just taking the culture, taking the transportation objects around you. Go ahead and photograph those as well. And then as you're at the point where you're ready to tell that story of what you've done. For example, let's take from here, from this cathedral on down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say copy to. So I just hit the share button. I'm going to say copy to. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Actually, that one doesn't count. This one, 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 this one. And I'm going to copy to a new collection. And when I create that new collection, it says, what do you want the name to be? I want the name to be A, so it shows up at the top. Europe. Actually, let's go back. Look at Europe. Okay, so now they're all in that collection. I can go back out of this one, go all the way to the top. A look at Europe. There they are. And now I could say, well, wait a minute. I don't need two of those. Let's go ahead and remove one of these. And when I say remove, it's removing it from that collection. It's not removing it from Lightroom. And now I've got these shots that I'm ready to share. Now, of course, we already showed you the sharing to, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to portrait for this. I already showed you the share an individual photo. So if I want to share this photo, I can do that just by tapping share. And that will bring up my standard OS. Oop, there's an error on that one. That'll bring up the standard OS share sheet. And once I bring up the standard OS share sheet, I can share it to Twitter, Facebook, or whatever. That's great. I want to point out one more before I forget, because people often ask this, and they'll say, oh, I thought you could do this, but you can't. What if I want to share it to Instagram? You notice when I go to share, Instagram's not here, or at least it wasn't. Yeah, it's still not here. Okay? And you think, oh, I got to save it and share it manually. Well, there's another sharing option. When I go to share, there is, hang on, sorry, I did it twice. Instead of share, there's open in. And for whatever reason, Instagram is one of those apps that doesn't have a share extension in iOS. So you do the open in to copy it over to Instagram. So if I say open in, that'll bring up Instagram, and now I can copy it to Instagram. And the resize button is there, and I can resize it. So tap the resize button to resize it, and I go next, and I do all the Instagram things I would want to do to share this photo on Instagram. Okay, so you can share to Instagram directly from Lightroom, and now it will also do the right thing. Instead of cropping it to a square, it will you can maintain the proportions if you want. All right, let's go back to Lightroom. Now that's all great. That's fantastic for sharing individual photos out to the various social networks and email and everything, and texting, so forth and so on. But there's one more way you might want to share it that's part of your Lightroom experience as well. And that is, what if I just want to share this whole collection? I want people to look at every single photo that's in here. Well, if I tap the share, there is share collection. Hang on, something in my eye. Share collection will give you the ability to take this collection that you just made and create a public link to it. So now that public link, you can share the link, and that anyone with a web browser can go look at this single collection. So if I tap share link, it will let me share the link any way I want, or I can say share collection again and view on web. That will take me to my web browser to that specific URL that Adobe is giving me for my specific collection of photos that I can now give out to anyone. And people can look at the photos, they can tap on them, they can even tap to pinch, or not pinch and zoom, but tap to zoom. They could swipe left and right to go to each one. And I've now just hosted a web gallery of my Lightroom edited photos quickly and easily right from my phone. I can share that collection, get the URL, and send it, text it to someone and say, hey, go look at my vacation. And as I add new photos to it, the collection just keeps changing. So for example, I say, hey, I'm starting my vacation today. Here's the collection that I'm going to be putting all the photos in. Check on this URL from time to time to see all my new photos. And as long as I keep adding photos to that collection, they will automatically be on the web instantly, as long as I have an internet connection to put them on the web. And once I connect again, any ones that hadn't been uploaded to the web will be synced to the web as well. So you've got a ton of ways to share your images, either individually to people or as a collection to people. Let's go back to Lightroom. And I had some notes here of things I did not want to forget to tell you. Make sure I covered everything. Okay, and I did that. Oh, I didn't do that. Okay, so let's do this real quick. This will help you out when you have a lot of photos that need the same thing. So for example, when we were looking at our Lightroom before and after collection, let's say that, oh no, maybe not. All right, let's do this. Let's go to this one, because remember, these photos are kind of all the same exact photo just different times where there was more sand or less sand. But let's say I want to make an adjustment to this photo. So I go in, I tap my adjust, and oh yes, I want to update the process version. Yes, do it. Okay, I go in and and hang on, I'm going to have to do that to each one. Okay, each one's good. These are good. Okay. I go to this photo and I want to, I'll do something drastic. I'll adjust the exposure. I'll adjust the contrast. And I'm kind of overdoing it on purpose. I'll adjust the clarity. And let's say that's the adjustment I like. It isn't. Let's say it is. If I go back out and I look at that adjusted photo, if I hold my finger down on it, I get a menu. Oh, I'm sorry, held it down too hard. There we go. And in that menu, actually I want to do it. No, I don't want to do it with that menu. Sorry, wrong menu. Hold it down here. I get a menu while I'm in the adjustments that says copy settings. When I copy settings, I get to pick everything or individual things that I want to copy. So once I say OK, now I can go to the next photo, hold my finger down again, and paste settings. And it will adjust that photo quickly and easily with the exact same settings that I did to the previous one. Paste settings again. So if you had 10 photos in a row, and it's like, oh no, I don't want to have to go adjust every single one with all these basic things they need, cropping, brightening, exposure, temperature, all those things. Do it to one, copy the settings, paste, 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 and all the photos will be non-destructively updated with the same exact settings. Same thing goes for black and whites, filters, or anything else you've done. Okay, just making sure I got everything else. One more thing, and we're almost out of time, but I want to talk about it, and that is flagging. Now, everything I've shown you up to this point is free. Download Lightroom Mobile, and you can do everything I just showed you. I said there'd be one thing towards the end that's not free, and that is if you are a Creative Cloud member or you become a Creative Cloud member, then you get access to Lightroom on the desktop. So if I go to Lightroom on the desktop, here's Lightroom on the desktop, and here are the same collections that we saw earlier. And notice what's been happening in the background. All the adjustments I've been making, the black and white, the car, all these adjustments have been getting made to my photos on the desk as well. Because as a Creative Cloud member with Lightroom CC, everything you're doing in Lightroom Mobile automatically syncs back to the desktop. And anything you choose to sync from the desktop gets put on your phone. So for example, if I go back to my phone real quick here, and I notice the composition is bad on one of these photos of Lisa here, this one. God, we can make that photo so much better if we do two things to it. If we just go to crop, and kind of bring the attention down to Lisa's eyes, maybe. And we go in and we also make an adjustment maybe to the shadows. There we go. Kind of already cranked up the shadows a lot on this photo, so let's crank it up a little bit more. And we maybe go in and adjust a little clarity. She's a girl, but she can take it. All right. She's not a female human, so she can take a little clarity. Make that fur stand out a little bit more. All right, so I made those adjustments. Now, the photo is already, it's a raw file. It's already on my computer, and it's synced from my computer as a smart preview to my phone and my iPad and everywhere else. But notice what just happened on my computer. All the adjustments I just made, cropping, shadows, everything else, just happened on the computer as well. Because Lightroom is always keeping things in sync, as long as I have an internet connection, and it's not having to sync the photo back and forth, it's syncing the metadata because those changes are non-destructive. So if I go back to this photo and say, what was I thinking? I could go into the develop module and turn those adjustments off. Or on my phone, maybe I want to go into a different mode. I'll go to now we started over here at the very beginning, the flagging. Let me pull this up a little bit. So we're on our flags and ratings. So if I, here, let's go back. If I say that one is now a 3-star rating, I've now changed the rating of that photo. So you can swipe up or down on the photo itself, or you can make it a pick or a reject on the photo itself. So if I mark that a pick, I can make that a pick, and of course I can also go back and make some, or here, let me go back, I was in it already. I can make some adjustments to it. All right, I got 1 minute left, so I don't have time to make the adjustments, but basically everything that you're doing on your phone, tablet, is syncing back up to Creative Cloud using Creative Sync down to your desktop. And everything you're doing on your desktop to those synced photos is happening on your mobile devices. So I actually use Lightroom on the desktop as my port app, just with different collections. And anytime I want to show my photos to people in person, I go to that collection, to my phone or tablet, and show them. Any photos I add or take out of that collection are automatically added and taken out of Lightroom on my phone. All right. I hope you guys had a good learning experience. My time is up. Beetlejace, and Beetlejace will be taking you through some very cool things that deal with audio and video. Guys, take care. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.